Welcome, everybody. Red Morning. We were having a conversation. It was so good. We thought I'd share it with you. Where did we leave off on this one?
No, we're just talking about the whole thing that gin is becoming a thing now, and you actually have to move off the regular shit like the Bombay Sapphire, your Gordon's. I've never drank Beefeater. I've never been that much in need of a buzz before, but it's kind of interesting. Like gin is becoming a thing, and like you get all these like tiny ass bottles of special tonic waters and stuff. So it's actually becoming quite like I used to drink gin tonic when I was tired of having to think while drinking.
That's an interesting way of putting it. See, I started in like the late 90s and the 2000s because bars had black lights in them and gins and tonics always glowed. So like that was the biggest thing.
For me, it was like always been a big like beer and scotch guy, and like when you're drinking different stuff, you want to think about okay, what are the flavors? How's the mouth feel? How's everything hanging together? How smooth it is?
Mm-hmm.
But a gin tonic is a gin tonic
Yeah, it's
until
perfect.
they start to bring out all these kind of small batch specialty gins with all their special botanicals, like a Japanese gin flavored exclusively with Japanese botanicals like cherry blossoms and stuff, and that was very interesting.
Really? So they still use the juniper berries or no? Because that's
No,
kind of like the
they
gin flavor.
yeah, but like the Japanese didn't. They used something they had to get a similar flavor, but it wasn't quite juniper.
Which is funny because when you think about it, the only difference between gin and those flavored vodkas they have is just gin came out before they marketed it as flavored vodka. Because that's all it is. Although I guess so Scotch when you really get down to it. Yeah, no,
Well,
beer, it's great too though. I got a bit of nostalgia. Like when I was growing up in the ranch, we had two things that I remember very vividly. A giant cow skull just sitting on the floor by the wall, and then this giant Texas Mickey Beefeater bottle. It actually came on like a little swivel, I guess, so that's so you could pour it because otherwise it weighed 300 pounds. And I just remember as a kid, it's right by where the computer was when I was playing Leisure Suit Larry 2, the Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's an old school reference, man. Leisure Suit Larry. That's 386 DOS shit.
I know. Oh man, how old is 386 now? Actually, you know what? That's nerd shit. Never mind. Let's get back to gin.
89, I think.
Damn, it's like Batman old. But yeah, oh, I
Well, no,
love gin for summer drinks. It's one of those. It's nicer than vodka because vodka doesn't really taste like anything, and you just basically drinking fruit juice. But in the summer, you just put it with like a little bit of tonic, and it's just jammy.
yeah, what I don't get now though is the hard seltzer.
Hard seltzer. So it's club
Yeah,
soda with liquor.
yeah, basically. And some usually fruit flavors to it. And it's like at that point, why don't you just like buy vodka, buy some fruit, and then just mix the shit yourself? Like it's soda water, fruit, and liquor.
Yeah,
Like
well, I'm not
how?
Rolo, but I'm guessing that's appealing to the girls that are self-conscious about their weight demographic.
Oh yeah, that's everything it's appealing to. Like the only thing I've found with both that and like the new ginger beers is that if you've been on like I went to a beer tasting where we went through like 40 beers in a night.
Right.
Like we're not drinking whole beers then. We're drinking like smaller samplings. But at that point, it was really nice to get something like a ginger beer in the middle of it, just to let your palate rest. Because like you start off real fucking serious on the first drink, like oh yeah, I really get the hops here, and I'm really it's very clean. And then at the end, you're like okay guys, what does this taste like? It tastes like fucking beer, bro. Shut the fuck up.
Only you would be like, you know what this beer tasting needs? A palate cleanser.
No, but they've actually been doing that at pro beer tastings for years, man.
Real
You
pro beer
get
tastings.
Yeah, professional beer tastings, they actually have usually some form of cracker, like a Ritz cracker or something that's flavor neutral in
Hmm.
between. And you can also use something like, what's it called? The Belgian sours, creeks and such. You can use those in between because they will just reset your palate because of the tartness.
Fair enough. See, I'm a little more blue collar with this. So when we had beer tastings, what we would do is figured all these lagers taste the same to us. So we bought like Budweiser, Corona, all Heineken, all the ones you think of when you think of like mass marketed beer. and then we had a wine tasting with that with a bunch of buddies. We called it like the redneck tasting, and I was actually surprised. After a while, you got to tell the difference, and I understand why people dunk on American beer right now and Mexican beer. It's the only beer worse than American beer is Mexican beer.
All right, you have some pretty bad Asian ones too.
Like Chinese or Japanese?
Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai.
See, I didn't mind height, but I think that's nostalgia too, because when I was in Korea, I drank that forever, and I loved it. Tsingtao, I never drank much, but I will say the Japanese beers, Asahi and Sapporo. I put them in Canadian beers as like the top two for lagers, mass-produced lagers.
Yeah, Kirin is also very nice if you're having. Kirin is very nice for sushi. Like, I still haven't figured out how people try to pair wine with Asian food. It just doesn't work like that, man.
That's true. But yeah, it's neat because you see the differences. So like Heineken and all those northern Scandinavian type ones, they always have like a floral thing to them. The American ones have no taste to them. The Mexican ones all have a bit of skunkiness to them. And the Canadian ones, and Japanese. The only difference is Canadian ones are like fuzzier, foamier, and maltier. And Japanese ones tend to be very crisper and extra carbonated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that can make sense. I mean, I'm guessing it has to do with like beer tends to get darker the further north you go. And they actually have a thing in Germany where the beer should follow the season. So, like in the summer, you're drinking all the light ones, like your white beers, your Weizens, and your Pilsners. Then as you go towards darkness, the beer gets darker and darker and darker until you hit the Doppelbox in December and January.
Right.
And then you start to push towards summer again. And like my favorite like of the German beers is actually one of the early spring ones called a Maibach. Because to me that's like the perfect place to stop between like between a lager and a dark beer, because it's darker, so it's kind of malty, but it has a nice hops crispness, and it's kind of light and has a very clean finish. So I really
we have that here in Toronto. I'll try that out.
We also have alt beers. Those are also very good, but they're a little bit darker.
Yeah, like I'm typical West Coaster. I have a huge IPA hard on, bitterer the better, and all those like tiny microbreweries that, like Granville Island Winter Ale. It's like a vanilla beer, but it only comes out in winter. Awesome.
Well, I got my IPAs too, so and like I like my beers to be more bitter than a girl who just caught you in a threesome with her mother and sister.
Nice reference. All right, I guess we've been talking about beer enough. I think this topic is going to be a lot of fun, by the way. It was mostly your idea, but it just happened to coincide with some research I was doing for the second book. It was, how to reword it? Reading too much and doing too little, or there was a catchier way, I know.
Well, my thing was just like we had like that one show was like how to tell if you're spending too much time with your girl, and then we had that show in the middle there like thank God you're normal, and then I thought, what would
One of my favorites, by the way.
Well, the perfect show to add to that would be like, here's the sign you're reading way too much manosphere shit.
Ooh. So let's see. It'd be too easy to start with the green line crap. And we kind of already hit that ground.
The green line?
Yeah, that ribs thing where if you lean in, you're basically cucked. Took like something and ramped the autism up to 12.
I wouldn't say that. That was way beyond 12. That was over
by the way,
10,000.
Funny story. So since going after that as a completely ridiculous thing, my Twitter has just dropped off a cliff. So when you were asking before about how to do a purge, apparently going after Riv is the way to do it. Or I just had enough PUA day game guys with me that they're like, wait a minute, he's ragging on our god. Get him out of here. I don't know.
Well, you probably something like that, man.
Which I'm not like I'm mad about it or anything. I don't mind that. It's like, I think you were the one who taught me early on. It's more about, it's just as much them vetting for who they subscribe to as it is me vetting for who I have as followers. But it's kind of nice. We always got a switched on group. Everybody in here, like, look at the chat. Look at all these guys. Is there one guy in there who's not awesome? I don't think so.
I don't know. I like the fact that they're actually now going off on the more obscure beers they can actually find. It's like they're starting to talk about fucking cherry lambics in there now.
Oh, I guess that's the thing. You mentioned something, and then everybody takes it up to 12. But yeah. So people watching too much and reading too little. Obviously, it's a buffer. I mean, you have an interest in sexual dynamics, whether it's pickup, whether it's long-term relationships, whatever. And clearly, guys want to succeed on it, but they don't want to put themselves out there for failure. As a nice little crutch you can use, you can be like, oh, I would love to, but I got to watch 4 more podcasts and hear Roosh rant about the lizard people before I can approach Cindy. I think we can agree on that being like a major cause of it.
Oh, sorry. I was just Rolos sharing more of his here is why women are bad tweets.
Dude, he's really leaned into that red meat. I'll give him that. Oh, yeah, I see it. I curved this dude for 10 years, then when I finally let him hit, he ghosted me. I hate men.
Well, to be honest, good on the dude. He was obviously one of our listeners.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It bugs me a little bit. A lot of the the anger phase shit, I'll call it that to be generous. A lot of that really seems to overlap heavily with Black Twitter. You notice that? Light-skinned Black Twitter, which is the most savage place ever.
Well, Black Twitter is hilarious. It's I've gotten into that because I had Quincy, I followed him. I have Brother Morpheus and a couple other guys at Craig's VCR who are heavily into Black Twitter. And sometimes some of the shit that hits my timeline is insane. You can get at white people for being racist, but if you're racist inside your own community as other black people based on skin tone, that gets kind of far, I think.
Oh yeah. Still, you're right. It's entertaining as hell, and I love it. I got the same follows there. I actually feel sad. Morpheus now, when he puts out an Anthony tweet, it kind of gives me a nostalgia kick for 2018. I'm like, oh, I miss those days.
Oh, I don't. I miss 2016, back before everyone started spurging out and before we had green lines everywhere.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Because, yeah, I've been looking through 2015, 2016, 2017, and it was, you are right, even the Married Red Pill subreddit, it was a different space. A lot of it now is guys who are just hat in hand, I don't know what I'm doing, and they're kind of helping each other. But back then, Rule Zero Dad was brand new, bringing the legal aspect to it. S-Curve Much was there, bringing the medical aspect. Jack 10 was a marketing guy. There's a lot of military guys. It was a mishmash of adult professionals who had all different spheres where they all had their little bit of expertise, and they were all bringing it together. And the stuff was, and little infights, but the fights weren't fighting with each other. They were fighting about the ideas, which I liked. But at the same time, everybody was doing things too. Nobody was just inventing this stuff from a keyboard. Everybody was bringing back field reports of something that they knew from their life. And I think we've lost that, which is why your topic kind of hit home there, where it's nobody seems to be approaching anymore, at least not as many.
Well, I actually think it comes down to the fact that we have so much stuff, and a lot of the guys who are here struggling, women aren't the only thing missing in their life. I think they're also missing that male camaraderie and having a male peer group you can shoot the shit with and everything. And the red pill kind of becomes the substitute that for them. So they come on here, they watch us in the morning, they go watch Rule Zero, and then they end their night at midnight or something with Jack's show. It's that show is a real good look for the manosphere. 2 guys doing a show when they really should have pulled a girl home.
To be fair, isn't he in on Europe stand time? So for him, it's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday or something.
No, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, man.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough. But yeah, and that's the time zone thing too. So you could pretty much find something at any time now. And because this morning one, it's going to be a lot of Europeans in here, which is fine. I kind of like it. It tones down the autism a little bit. No offense to my Southern friends. But that Pacific Standard Time, I don't know what it is about that time. It's got a whole different vibe to it of guys at LARP. And that's where the communism crap comes out, and I blame California. Speaking of not doing anything, the commies.
I don't know. The whole thing with me is just there's so much you can read, and I think for the most part, if you read Rollo's first book, and like hard pieced before he went before he went off the deep end there,
Hmm.
you have enough to get started.
Oh, easily. I would
And then
argue
once
you
you
wouldn't
get
even need Rolo at that point. I think you could pretty much get off on just having Royce, like your first 2 years of Royce, and then
yeah,
Rolo as
maybe
your
buy the
own.
book. Yeah, maybe buy the book of Pook, but ideally, like just get started with it and work your way up. And whenever you hit something you don't know, you read some more.
Which is how like co-op programs work. It kind of makes sense. A little bit of study, a little bit of work, a little bit of study, and then it kind of everything piggybacks off each other. And I think what helps with that too is that so for most guys, when they ended up getting red pilled, I'd say at least 50 to 80% of it kind of already jived with what they already knew. Maybe they didn't articulate it the same way, but they understood it. So it made that last like 30, 20% of it a little bit easier to digest because, well, everything else is right. So why wouldn't this be right too? But, and I'm biased because like I'm from the married red pill guys. So there's always, the guys have at least got a notch count of one. But if you're starting from zero and you don't have a base of experience to go with here, it makes it very easy, especially if you start getting into the weeds, to end up following whoever sounds most interesting. And the most interesting guys, I hate to say it, are the ones that say feminism and lizard people and boomers did you wrong. Let's yell at them together and feel cathartic.
No, I agree with you, and it's not a productive approach. And it just became a point where we got to where there's so much content now that sifting through the weeds is actually more work than actually reading the stuff you need to read. Dude, like, I feel like everyone has a fucking book out now.
Ouch.
Like,
Yeah, but mine's good.
no, but like when I wrote my book, you had Rolo's books like first and second.
Right.
You had the Book of Poop was out, but there wasn't a ton of other stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking now for people who bought mine. What did they also buy? So I see Delicious Tacos, number one, then Book of Puck, then Rational Mail. For some reason, they got Corey Capella's book, Aaron Clary stuff, your stuff. And then if I go to the second page, it's all these guys that I don't know, which is weird. And then I see like Turd Flinging Monkey has a book. I did a thing there because I wanted to see if I was better than everybody else, because typical guy, you got to check the competition. And a lot of these ones aren't even books. They're almost like likability products. You know what I mean? Like I love Turd Flinging Monkey, and so I'll buy his book, which is like 80 pages and 16-point font. It reads like a Dr. Seuss book. So it's not something to learn from. It's not a story to gain insight from. It's kind of more showing you're part of the tribe, I guess. Which makes sense because you're talking about guys are missing their kind of like peer group. So what they're doing
Yeah,
now is they're turning your peer group into a commodity.
yeah, but I mean, Hunter was the first one to do that with the Fraternity of Cold Showers.
It's not Hunter anymore, man. He's switched it up.
Oh yeah, no, he went back to his real name, but I think Hunter is a better name.
Yeah. Oh, dude, super funny. So I was going through the old stuff like Jack Ten of Hearts and Yui Ultimate Cad and stuff, and there was this like huge argument back in 2015 why the red pill is basically garbage, and most of the stuff still holds up today. But it was funny because a lot of the guys were like, you know what, this family alpha thing is probably exactly what they need, because you can't say this is canonical red pill because there's no hierarchy to it. So you kind of have to make your own brand. And then he's like, this guy's doing like a really good thing, and I see good things coming out of it. I'm like, wow, that didn't age well. It didn't age
Mm.
well at all. But I mean, whatever. And then I don't know. I haven't read. Has anybody in the chat read 31 Days to Masculinity? His one there. Like, is this? I guess maybe it's because Rolo's been influencing me. Maybe it's just because that's how I like to read. But what I liked about Gendernomics 1 and 2 is that, yeah, you could read it because you like Carl and you like his stuff, but there's value in there. So even if you're just buying it for the camaraderie bit or showing the in-group loyalty, you're at least coming out of it with something more valuable than you put into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was kind of why it's priced fairly low, I'd say too. It's just from the basis that okay, if you want to buy this, at least have it be worth it to you. So at the time, I just put it out for whatever the minimum price was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not minimum, but like if I sold it more expensively, I'd have to jack it a lot higher, and I kind of like it being accessible. And it's
Yeah.
not like this is my main. Like if I actually made my living off doing this shit, then I'd have to start treating these motherfuckers as customers instead of assholes I can tell to fuck off. Like
You
if I
still
was
can, though.
looking, well, if I was looking to make money off this shit, I wouldn't have done like a purge of my Twitter account. Like I wouldn't have stopped writing for like almost a year just because I couldn't be bothered dealing with all the shit that was going on.
Well, here's the thing. I think you can. Because this, when I was talking before about looking through the old stuff and how the answers were always there, you know how, I don't know, maybe you don't know, but I often say that modern man, like your strong back and a good arm and your how much you earn is no longer like valuable. Girls can earn their own money. We have machines. We don't really care. Automation's coming. Your back's not useful. So you kind of have to treat yourself like a luxury good and not a commodity anymore. Be that luxury brand. And then, so the marketing guy, Jack 10, was talking about the same thing years ago. So I don't know if it influenced me or not, but he's like, if you want to market yourself as a luxury brand, whether as a man or as a writer in that, there's that exclusivity and scarcity. So that purge could almost work out in your favor.
Yeah,
You have to be
I-
exclusive, but not. Same as like iPhones. You know, iPhones are like exclusive and you're the coolest kid in the world, but everybody has one.
oh yeah.
You reading this?
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Hey, I hear congratulations on outlifting Noah Ravoy, man. Congratulations on you.
Oh, is he still a thing?
I don't know. I haven't heard or seen from him ever, but we found some pictures in the chat with like John with his new denim vest, which is weird because I'm the Canadian. Shouldn't I own that? And then Noah beside it. I'm just happy that the trads are starting to realize that, you know, lifting is pretty good. Maybe Tanner's finally gotten to them. They're like, we got to beat out the Mormons.
Yeah, like even the Mormons is not lifting us. We just have to fix that shit. But
Oh.
now here's the thing though with and where was I going with that?
Doing books,
I
scarcity.
had a point. No, but I had a point to make here. But I just, oh yeah, it was back when I was still on that Reddit that shall not be mentioned that has now been taken over by Jack Booth and thugs. It actually used to be that one of the guys said something like, "We actually do need a space for people who know all the basic shit to work on the theory itself, to have more high level conversations, but we also need to make sure that the guy who just got dumped by his wife needs to actually
has like
gets
an emergency
the info he needs." So you had the sidebar for them, and then you could try and have decent theory discussions. But at some point, though, you kind of get to the point where dialogue is not necessarily useful in a public forum. That's why I like doing it on here, because like when you and I do it, or we get some extra people on here, you're kind of screened away the worst of the spurts.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Like, the last thing you need is like you're trying to have a serious discussion about something, and you have people posting Pepe memes.
Yeah, the jackboot stuff. It's always got to go there. But I do like it, and I hate to say it, but it kind of, and no offense to the guys here that are under 30, but it kind of has to skew older. Like, there's the rare guy in his 20s that has some good insight, but for the most part, I mean, I'm stupid in my 20s. Everybody's stupid in their 20s, but it's just, I think you just need to have more experience. You have to be burned a couple times to learn that you can't just out alpha the world.
Well, I do think like guys like John, I think his demographic kind of trends younger than ours do.
Oh, 100%.
And then you have Rolo, who's he kind of catches all. And I think Rich is probably also trends older. I think our demographic for like most of us is older. Troy, I'm not sure what his demographic is, but I'm seeing not a lot of guys in their 20s getting a hold of me anymore. And that's really good because like John gets all the Indians now.
Oh, the LBGs. We used to call them that in college. And that's the thing. I've noticed this. I've done a fair bit of consults, a lot of like private time on various forums and that. And it's a problem of the young. I always called it like the under 35 and over 35 crowd. The under 35 crowd, getting them to do anything was like pulling teeth. You can give them all the best advice in the world. You can articulate what they're screwing up, and they'll agree with you and they'll see it, and they just won't translate that to doing anything. And the over 35 guys, dude, if you made a convincing enough argument on how it could be useful for them, they'd jump off a bridge. course, it's got to work. And I don't know how to square that circle. You know what I mean? Because you were saying yourself, a lot of guys just read and they love and they enjoy it and they like the camaraderie, they like the group. But to get that translated into action is like pulling teeth.
I
And
think
short of
older
like
guys.
trauma. Yeah.
Well, I think older guys, and we talked about this in private messages, is I think guys who passed 30 have started to realize that a good work ethic is actually a good thing because
Yeah.
they've finished college, they're probably working, and they actually realize they need to start working on something for it to work. So I think the people who are most motivated are probably like the 40-year-olds.
Which makes sense. Oh, I think we lost you. Was it you or me we just lost?
Lost
Oh, it
what?
doesn't matter. Sorry,
No,
did
I
everything cut out
muted.
for a sec?
Yeah, I muted because I had to sneeze, man.
Circus
Full
strong,
corona here,
man.
man. A full
It
corona here,
appears
man.
I got to shave this thing because we're here talking about serious topics, and this is the topic of conversation: rare beers and what 18th century profession I look like I'm trying to get into.
I don't know, man. You should shave the beard and you should go over there and tie Dr. Babe Love Life down to the train tracks.
Oh, I didn't want to get into that one. I don't know. She's
I
kind
have
of
no idea.
indicative of a horrible problem. Chicks giving guys advice. I'll never get through it. I'll never get past it. I don't like it. And here's what bothers me the most about it. So girls will tell guys what they want to hear. They'll give them the whole geisha, like female self-improvement is geisha girls without the makeup, essentially. Never mind that we have tons of episodes on how to vet your guru, where it's like, yeah, make sure they've done some things first. There's the receipts, which apparently doesn't matter now because it's still, but a girl will tell the guys what they want to hear, and they'll still follow her much easier than they'd follow any guy who's got experience with something, who's got success in something, and I can't figure it out. All right, so let's see what we got in the chat here. Carl's going to be off for a second here. How dastardly. Rugby's got a good point. Smash the thumbs up. Honestly, right now, 43 viewers, 18 likes. Oh, it's a really slow start today. That's fine, I guess.
I'm seeing 167 watching right now and 53 likes. So we have 100 people on here.
Oh,
well,
nice.
we have 5 dislikes. Anthony got an extra YouTube account.
No, I retweeted one of Brother Morpheus's memes and making fun of him, so I'm pretty sure somebody screenshotted it, sent it to him, and now he's having a little spurg out. I swear to God, man, when it comes to these guys, any attention is good attention. It drives me nuts.
Well,
But,
I think it's just because, like, if you're looking for maximum exposure, because what you're doing then is you're trying to be the Budweiser of the manosphere, right?
yeah,
And if you get exposed to like 100 million people, there's going to be at least like a million or so that are dumb enough to be pounding a 12-pack of you before lunch, before they beat their wife. So at that point, you kind of have to push that exposure demographic to get your customers. Like, if you're more chill about it and you're just doing your thing, then your customers find you
yeah.
based on the fact that they're just people who naturally gravitate towards you and the people you follow.
True. Anyways, thanks, Fellman, for the $2 super chat. Keep it up the good job. We will. Carl, you cut out again. I think, and I noticed it's slower. If you're doing it that way, where you just like do your thing, make it as good as you can, don't do too much beef. It's harder to get exposure, so it tends to be a slower build, but you have a less fickle group that you're with, which is a good thing. Ed Lattimore is the best example of that. He's never started a beef, and he slowly built himself up huge, but most people are really impatient, and they would rather be like, what's that new account? This Dad Does? 2 million subscribers in a month. Like, everybody wants that, like that big hit.
No, he actually made a YouTube account now?
No, not that guy. It's a different one. He's on YouTube now. It's like the newest thing where he's like, I didn't have a dad. My single mom didn't teach me this stuff. So he makes YouTube videos of like, this is how you change your oil. This is how you shave. And he's pretending like he's your dad, which is really clever because all this stuff already has tutorials on YouTube, but not one of them said, I'll be your dad. It reminds me of that Pinnacle of a Man video. Remember the one from his like woodshed where he says he loves you?
No.
It's like that, only more subtle. It's damn clever.
Oh yeah, it is, and it's probably a lot of millennials out there looking for that old dad figure that they'd never had.
which is
But I also
weird.
think that's like I think it's a romanticized archetype, and I think that's the biggest problem we run into is that people create these archetypes of what a man is supposed to be like. So they have this dad archetype
Hmm.
that they never had, but no one who's had a dad had the dad archetype as their dad.
Oh, dude, it's like the advice I got from my stepdad was you're not a man until you fight your old man. That just doesn't jive with the archetype. I'm 100%. He never showed me how to change oil. He showed me how to yell at my mom for 15 years. So I'm just like, I don't really feel it. Like maybe that dad exists. I've just never seen him. I've never even heard of him.
No, I think that's these guys have this idea of what their life was like. Everyone's supposed to have the Leave It to Beaver dad who taught them how to shave using a Bic single blade razor, like if any competent man would ever use that shit.
I know the bit.
And I just think that's unfortunate because, like, you have what I've called hood masculinity because the ideal word to use there, I'm not allowed to say because I'm way too pale for that shit. And what that is you get a lot of guys who have no father figures to look up to because their mom is a single mom. So their masculinity figures are guys like Tony Montana from Scarface, rappers, thugs, etc. So you get this exaggerated form of masculinity where, like, unless you're standing there fighting off an entire Colombian cartel by yourself, you're not a man. And it's a caricature of masculinity rather than an archetype of masculinity. And it sends guys off in the wrong direction. Because you can always find, like, you have Steve McQueen, you have John Wayne, you have all these old celebrities that people are like, oh yeah, he was the real man. He was the real man. But John Wayne wasn't even John Wayne, man.
No, Marion. One of like the more feminine names you can think of too, which I find is the perfect analogy to this stuff. Where everybody has the idealized vision, then they meet their hero. And what is he? A guy named Marion, probably hated the blacks and died of cancer. Because he was smoking like a chimney and decided to do some nuclear testing, filming on a nuclear test site.
Yeah, so I just think they get these wrong archetypes, and they just kind of forget about the fact that they at some point have to go out into reality and be that archetype. And changing your role is a good thing to know. Knowing how to change a tire, or even just putting up a hook on the wall to hang a picture frame from. He's probably going to do a video on that next week. But, like, all this stuff is stuff you should know and should learn at some point, but it's not like the central thing of how do you get laid, or how do you find a girl, or how do you improve your life. That just starts from one point. And don't start doing carpentry on day one. You're going to trash your hands with a hammer, and you need those hands to lift weights, man. Because if you're not 6'2", 220 pounds with 6-pound pack abs, you're never getting laid ever.
Dude, I love crushing that one. I've already had, like, I'm 5'9", 5'10", 175 centimeters. I can't remember how that translates anymore. So I'm that. Cappy's, like, somewhere shorter than there. We had S-curve much, or physician rehab on here. Same thing. Like, just about everybody that I bring on is under 6 foot, and they're slaying it. Some guys are ugly, some guys are not. It totally crushes any of that blue pill or black pilled nonsense.
Yeah, well, Cappy's kind of like the Joe Pesci of the manosphere.
He does swear like Joe Pesci. I'll give him that. Yeah, the father archetype thing. I don't like. Since when did just doing adult skills, and no shame if you had to learn how to do something you didn't know, but why do you have to add the sentimentality and like the search for the halcyon days of old? I'm going to use some pedantic language on that. You guys can look up what the words mean later. Like, why do you have to attach that to it? I don't get why guys think they were missing out on something other people got. Other than they were raised by too much TV and all they saw was Leave It to Beaver growing up going, I wish my dad was like that. Meanwhile, the dad from Leave It to Beaver or the Osbournes or Ozzie and Harriet, he was an alcoholic, essentially. An alcoholic gambler who beat his wife. So even the dad archetypes were never dad archetypes. But if you're 22, you're 22, Carl. I mean, not you, but the guy watching this stuff and getting that thing. At what point do you realize, yeah, I kind of need to be that guy now, as opposed to just aspiring to find one to help me out and cuddle me at night? You know what I mean?
I don't think they ever get to that point because it's always like this hole in them. It's like it's rare, but like the manosphere is like the biggest collection in the world of guys with daddy issues.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny because we're always big on showing girls with daddy issues. Then again, maybe that's the projectionist perception thing.
Well, I love girls with daddy issues, man. I mean,
Oh,
who else is? Oh, girls. Some girls just need to be choked, man. But it becomes a very easy grift though, because what you can sell to these guys, it's not actual results or actual things they need to do. It's the emotional experience of dad telling them, "Oh yeah, I'm proud of you, son."
yeah. Which makes sense. That was Peterson for the longest time. Him basically talking to you like your professor dad. That new guy with the YouTube channel, it's like your dad helping you putter around the house. Who's another good example of that? I can't think of one right now. I guess George
Yeah,
Bruno maybe fit that bill for a bit. I don't know. Although he was
no,
more
but
like Uncle Touchy that they kept you away from at Christmas.
yeah, well, you also had like our favorite ballerina, who's also kind of that archetype. He's just younger. He's berating them for not living up to a standard, and basically here I can help you live up to the standard. So it's kind of like a drill sergeant, more or less. That you beat them down and then you build them back up.
Yeah, it's about as much of a drill sergeant as you can learn from watching Full Metal Jacket. That's the thing. I've taught in the military. That's not how it works at all. But I guess that's your point. Same way that these guys aren't actual, like dads aren't like the dad archetype. The drill sergeant isn't like actual drill sergeants either. We'll do a quick break here. Rumblefish, thanks for the $5 super chat. If you listen to enough of this, you realize it's about changing yourself. It's hard. Content consumption is easier than doing the work, myself included. Well, not you. You've honestly been putting some work in. We've been seeing you behind the scenes there. So you have the self-awareness to actually deal with it. I think that's key.
What happened to chat?
Oh, is it going
never
slow?
mind.
I don't know. I've had to switch it over. I use the YouTube Studio to view it now because there's a weird delay in the StreamYard stuff. So at least this one I can keep up on it. But it's neat, man. Robbie's putting in work there.
Well, and I think that was even with like Quincy. Was the guy was actually putting in work? He was fasting. He was doing the best thing he could.
Yeah, remember he moved his entire family down from, I can't remember, like Philadelphia to Houston or something like that. So he was making difficult decisions aside from just like the standard self-improvement stuff. So it was awesome.
Because
it's too bad he kept getting banned from Twitter.
Well, it's for me, it's just about doing the small stuff, and like the best thing you can aim for to begin with is just be average.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a fat dude who's like, what do I need to do to get laid? And they're like, well, first of all, you need to be in supermodel shape. And secondly, you need to grow 5 inches so you're not a short motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, okay, that's too much. I can't do that. If you tell him, okay, the first thing you need to do is get down to a pant size that doesn't have 3 digits to it.
I would say even simplify past there. Go to the gym and lift some weights. Like not even a specific program, just go there and go through the motions of doing what gym people do. I think that's like the bare minimum. And so far, it doesn't matter whether you're on the red pill, TRP.red, married red pill, here, one of the 18 war rooms built by alpha masculinity, wolves of men, pinnacle legends with the stoic axes in the background. The one thing everybody can agree on is that going to the gym and taking care of your fitness is important. But nobody seems to agree on how.
No, but fuck how. Like, go lifting a weight is better than not lifting a weight. The worst thing you see are guys who are like I would tell everyone, go do strong lift 5v5. If you've never lifted before, just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impossible.
That simple.
It's 70 years old as a program. It's time tested and true. It's the Budweiser of working out. You can do it all day without getting sick of it.
But just do that and move from there. And you just get better with every day instead of going after this. And you can have goals, but like, what's the point? Like, most people aren't going to look like, let's be honest, most girls, even if they're in perfect shape, are not 10s. Most guys, even if they're in perfect shapes, are not 10s.
Nope, not even close.
And even if you think you've nailed a 10, you take her home, you sleep with her, you fall asleep. You wake up the next morning, her makeup is off, and she's walking around the house wearing one of your old sweatshirts, and you're like, fuck, man, she's a soft 7 at best.
Yeah, why can't I have this girl that's stuck on the pillow here when this one's up walking around? Well, and even, let's say even after that, no makeup, wearing your sweater, 3 days later, still looks like a 10. that's got a time limit on it. Tons of guys in their 40s and 50s with like 40-year-old wives is like, oh yeah, she was a 10. It doesn't last forever. This whole I only do 9s and 10s things, it's not a long-term sustainable strategy at all, even though it's completely ego-laden anyway.
I think it's largely it's not a buffer, but it's the like you have people who are doing let's say this sphere shit for various reasons. You have the guys who are doing it to get cred and get clout within the space itself.
How
You have
embarrassing.
you have the people who are doing it in order to get clout and positive feedback from women. I was one of them like 10, 15 years ago. And then you have guys who are doing it for themselves. And the last part is the most important one, because if you think you get to a point where you're done, you never get there. You're always going to have some work to do, and it's not like, let's say you get into perfect shape. Like bodybuilders do that before contests, right? They hold that shape for about 3.5 minutes until their posing routine is done. Then they go in the back and they kill off 2 large Domino's pizzas.
Yeah.
Because they've been starved.
Peak, and then you'll relax and you peak again.
And you have to keep that in mind, like with Corona, especially in Europe, when like every fucking gym is closed. Ryan's hair looks like shit because his barber is closed. Like everyone is looking worse after Corona, except like a few guys that are really, really into working out who are like, yeah, I don't have to go to work now. I can just spend all day working out.
Yeah, and they happen to have a home gym and they've centered their life around it. You used to talk about them. Those are the guys that you wouldn't want to be because they can't leave the house without a cooler protein.
No, exactly. Like they'll have a girl be like, "Hey, babe, can you put like chocolate syrup on me and lick it off?" And they'd be like, "No, there's too much sugar in that chocolate syrup."
I was thinking too. So, when you're on quarantine, if you're on a cycle, how do you get more? I guess. I mean, it's kind of illegal depending on where you are in Japan. It's cool, but here it's like,
Yeah, but to be honest though, man, it's like I don't think people who are selling illegal steroids care too much about the quarantine.
yeah. I was going to correct myself. Although that's the one problem with weed becoming legal. All the weed shops, they had it open as an essential service for a bit, but then they shut it down too because too many Karens were getting mad.
Well, it kind of goes back to that same thing with sustainability of whatever you're doing. And if you're on TRT, fair enough. If you're on quote unquote TRT, where you're basically on word cycles, but you claim you're on it for TRT in your early 20s, that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But that was another one, like the obsession with, oh, how high is your T?
Yeah, they missed the point on that. It's kind of like everybody's going to have a natural T level. It's good to keep track of it because if all of a sudden it drops off a cliff once you hit 32, you know something's up. But you're right, it's always relative too. It's not just, but like you said, take a concept and there'll be some autists that ramp it up to 12. So then it was about who can hit the most T ever. Natty. It's always got to be natty. And then somebody cheats, goes on a stack, hits like, oh yeah, I'm 1700 nanoliters per deciliter. And you're like, what in the kind of Russian power lifter levels are those?
Yeah, like looking like the fucking Eastern European women's swim team from 1987.
Yeah. Holy jeez. All right. So guys are still going off about the mustache. I look like a Maharaja with that stash. Somebody was going to start calling me Raj, which is awesome. That means king, but I can take that. I really should have just put a towel on my head and been like one of those racist turbans, pulled a Justin Trudeau on this one, but I didn't have the heart for it.
You could have gotten away with it. You have that weird ethnicity free pass.
Mm-hmm. Plus, my hair's long enough now, I could actually probably tie an actual turban with it. We had that in the military for a while because they had, you know, the whole thing, like Sikhs, do you have to wear helmets, do you not? They finally sorted it out. So for the Navy, they made Canadian Forces issued turbans. And they gave it to the logistics system, and you could order them. But they forgot to limit it to people who were just Sikh faith. So everybody was essentially buying turbans, learning to fold the turbans, and then wearing them around the ship, because technically it was by policy. They didn't specify you had to be a Sikh to wear a turban for your headdress. So that lasted like 2 weeks. One of the
Yeah,
funniest things I've ever seen.
that reminds me of people who work in offices with dress codes who wear like crazy socks because like most dress codes do not specify that you have to not wear crazy socks.
Yeah. Although I do miss the one. So if you're ever in IT, there's always that one guy who's wearing Birkenstocks with wool socks and a Hawaiian shirt. And like, okay, that guy is clearly keeping this place together. He's just flexing how he's irreplaceable. And he was always so
Oh,
much fun to hear.
well, there's also like the rule of thumb in coding that the better a programmer looks, the more unemployed he is. Because a working coder looks like absolute dog shit. And then you have like an unemployed coder is there with like a neat shirt, and he has like nice looking pants. He's got his haircut like a guy who's coding looking like Albert Einstein in like an old sweatshirt with Frito stains on it.
Fair enough. All right, I'll circle this one back then. So I'm thinking of the topic. Guys not acting when they see too much. And I'm pretty sure like the first response back was, well, what should I do? Essentially looking for not even cheat codes, but just like a roadmap. Tell me what I should do. Give me instruction, which defeats the purpose. Because if it was just about sheep in search of a shepherd, they can go find any number of guys that are preaching about Jesus. They'll gladly tell you what to do. Here's the single mom from work. Here's Jesus. Here's some backbreaking labor. Go to town, son. And they'll do it and they'll be happy, but they won't be happy for long. The purpose of it is to get a guy to learn and direct himself, which might be another reason why older people are doing it too, because like self-starter, every corporate job has self-starter. Also, Carl, you're dead again. Has self-starter in their thing. So you have to be able to make your own task to achieve your own goals. So I'm almost wondering if it's the lack of goals, Carl, that means guys are basically in search of direction and they don't know how to set a goal. They don't know what a goal would look like. And if they did have a goal, they'd be afraid of actually achieving it or not achieving it. I don't know.
I think they're stuck between fear of failure and fear of success.
Mm-hmm. The second one always drives me more nuts, by the way.
Like they don't want to fail, so they won't do anything that they're not naturally good at. And at the same time, they don't want to be successful, so when something starts working, they start fucking themselves over.
Do you think that's mostly like it's what's that effect? The one imposter syndrome. Do you think the fear of success is kind of paralleled with imposter syndrome, or do you think it's something else?
Well, the whole thing we have with our space is that a lot of guys feel like, even like people who are reading this stuff externally are saying like the purple pill debate people, they're being like, oh, these guys are creating social robot, they are fake guys. And at the start, that was the case, like back with like mystery style game, but now you're just trying to help guys improve.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of guys they treat their default setting as what they should be. And then they're like, well, this is my default setting, so I'm obviously being fake, when in reality, you're actually helping. You're actually helping yourself become better, because very few people start off good. Like, you have a couple of lucky guys who just kind of fall into everything that makes them successful early on.
Right.
Everyone else has to work for it. And you're not fake because you just determine that, okay, I need to get a good work ethic. I need to start going to the gym. I need to take care of myself. Like, people make fun of me all the time for my skincare routine, but there's a reason I'm looking like I'm 27 and they're looking like they're 57.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's that be yourself thing. And I know Rollo, he talks about it a lot. I know he's got an article on that one. He's got a few. I don't think people will parrot it. And this is the part that's frustrating too. So they'll parrot the just be yourself to make fun of it, but they never actually map it to the terrain properly. So that's exactly what, like, I don't want to be fake. That's a just be yourself line. And when guys say they don't want to be fake, they don't actually think that through either. So what is fake? Well, fake is me not acting true to myself. Well, what's true to you? And eventually, if you look it through, you're right. All it means is whatever I'm doing right now, homeostasis is exactly what the real authentic me is, and people need to accept that. And that's such a broken chick thing to say. You know what I mean? Where I'm intrinsically valuable for what I'm doing already. Like that's what a
Well, to
fat
be
chick
honest,
tells
though,
herself when she's crying.
well, to be honest, though, most of the guys here are like that.
True.
They're the male equivalent of fat chicks crying into the ice cream bowl, saying that it's all my genetics while they're shoving their stuff in their face.
Yeah. And it's true. And a lot of guys will end up getting into arguments with them. I do it sometimes for entertainment for the audience, but I always tell people like these arguments are ridiculous because you could put the most convincing argument, the most irrefutable proof, but the argument isn't about like it's not about the nail. They don't want to argue to see which is right and which is true. They're arguing to protect their ego. And you're never going to beat that with the most persuasive arguments. Just like arguing with an ex-wife. It's not going to work.
And if I have to be like really harsh here, I'd say like every single guy in the world who's not locked on a military base or in prison or something, if you actually get even not even a decent shower, just go have a shower, put on clean clothes, emphasis on clean, go out tonight and basically go and try and bang a chick, any chick. You would be able to.
Would or would not?
Would. It's just a matter of setting your bar low enough. Like old buddy of mine from high school used to say the question isn't the difficulty. The question isn't can you get laid or not. It's a question of how low are you willing to sink to get laid. And he has a point because like you're going to find like some fat chick who's depressed or some girl who's overly drunk and just got dumped by her boyfriend or whatever.
Or the crackhead in the alleyway that really wants a hamburger.
Or some crack. But so you're going to find someone regardless. It's just a matter of, I think with a lot of the guys, it's just a matter of
inflated standards?
I would never waste Johnny Walker Blue all over my face. That's alcohol abuse, man. That's alcohol abuse.
Yeah, but if you use Red Label, you're just giving yourself acne. So,
but I wouldn't buy Johnny Walker Blue for the most part. I do occasionally because of nostalgia. But at that price point, there are a lot of really nice 21-year-old single malts you can grab.
Fair enough. All right, let's put a pin in this one. One Man's Way with the $20 super chat. Thank you very much. He's still paying off the debt from his first failed business, as well as a young man it took him months to fail and years to repair. It'll be paid off this summer. I believe this is why I overanalyze.
Oh yeah, and for sure, man. If you fail, you're going to overanalyze for a bit. But at some point, you kind of have to get to the point where you're like, okay, you know what? What am I actually gaining from analyzing this? Like when I got divorced, I analyzed what went wrong, where did I misstep in, the pickup process, the relationship process, the marriage land. I overanalyzed the fuck out of that whole situation. But at some point, I got to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not actually, even if I had the perfect answer to this, I could put 2 lines under that answer and be done with it. Would I be done with it, or would I question the answer I got and keep analyzing? Because at that point, like, analyzing was a defense mechanism.
Ooh, that's common as hell. A lot of the married guys, too. There was a huge hullabaloo for a while on whether you should snoop on your girl's emails or her phone.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it was the same thing. Like, okay, let's say you find something. A guy would find her talking with somebody that she shouldn't be, like an ex-husband or an ex-boyfriend or something like that, or some guy being flirtatious. And he's like, well, they didn't say that they did anything, so I'll let it slide. And they keep shifting the goalpost of what they're looking for, and ends up making this feedback loop of paranoia where, well, the email said they were going on a date, but it didn't say what they were doing, so that's fine. And, well, I put a GPS tracker in her car, and it showed her going to this restaurant and then to a hotel, in fact. But you see what I mean? Like, it kept... Guys would just believe what they wanted to believe, and then whatever they would do with their analysis, they would use that to fit whatever narrative they've already developed in their head.
Well, to be honest, though, like, if you're in a relationship like that, and you find out that your girl is cheating on you, that's like the biggest win ever, man. That's a carte blanche to go get some side chicks right there.
Yeah, but that's the cognitive reframe, and that's a lot of the difficulty in this space for the most part. And I know it sounds stupid, like The Secret, your thoughts become reality, or that nonsense, but yeah, for a large part of it, the way you frame your situation will drastically change not only your happiness about it, but what you do to get out of it or to continue it on. I'll use a great example: Hunter Drew and Altmate Cad. So they both had the same situations. Their girl suspected infidelity, no proof, but they just kind of okay. So Hunter's was the girl was while they were still dating before they got married. Now he's 2 kids in, finding out she cheated when he was off at basic. Cad was they were married, they already had 2 kids. She went off on a date with a dude that he knew she was liking, and she came back and lied about it. 2 completely separate routes they went. Hunter went and just, had his fun, got some revenge out of the way. He's like, all right, now it's square. Let's start from scratch again. Cad demoted his wife to plate. He's like, the kids have 5 more years till they're out of the house. I can hold off for 5 more years. And he basically just screwed everything in the neighborhood that could walk. Both the guys, to talk to him, were equally as happy. They framed their situation completely opposite to each other. Which is funny, because then that means there's really the only wrong decision to make there would have been no decision. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I think a lot of guys are pushing off decisions that they have to make. Just because they don't want to make that hard call. And I think with the one man's way, it's a bit different. Like, I'm not sure if he overanalyzes women or business decisions, but you should always analyze business decisions or decisions that have to do with money, and that includes getting married.
Right.
At the same time, though, if you're spending 15 minutes deciding what to buy at the bar and the line is long behind you, you're an asshole. Like, if there's a long line at the bar, you can order drinks with less than 3 ingredients. Or you can order a beer. Or a glass of wine, and that's it. You cannot buy anything else.
Well, a water if you're the DD.
Yeah, if you're the DD.
You're like, why are you even there?
Yeah, like, why would you need a designated driver? We have Uber, man. There's always like a sober. That's why I like Muslim immigration to Western countries. Like, who else is going to be sober at 3 o'clock on a Saturday to drive my ass home?
I guess I just kind of dated myself with that one. Yeah, you need the designated driver. Like, designated what? Nobody owns a car. Oh, right, fair enough.
But it's also like, with what Ultimate Cat did, I think that's probably the best decision he could make given the circumstances. Okay, so his wife is fucking around. Okay, fuck around on her. Like, avoid the divorce until the kids are out so you don't get raped with child support. And just have your fun.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Everybody's like, if a girl ever cheated on me, I would ditch them in a heartbeat. And he goes, yeah, I am going to ditch her, but I'm doing it on my time scale. Like, I'm not just going to emotionally fly off the handle and nuke my entire life. Operation Scorched Earth may be like burning everything to the ground, but the timeline is something you can still set. Oh, here, I'm just checking in the chat here with the guys. I like one more please things. Being lazy enough to recognize the last 5% is more work than the first 95. And dude, that's huge, by the way. That something my buddy and I, the one from the book, Chris, we talked about it all the time, and he kind of made this decision early on, around the same time I did, that 80% is good enough. Just about anything. When it comes to money, when it comes to women, 80% is trivial. Just do anything you can get 80%, as long as you're not stupid about it. Do you really want to spend twice as much effort to get to 90%? Do you want to spend twice as much effort still to get to 95%? And then it turns out a lot of the reason for inaction is because guys refuse to do anything until 95%. Another example. One of these MGTOW guys, I put out one of my anti-MGTOW tweets to rile them up because whatever, engagement's good. And he goes, well, what's the point of doing all this self-improvement and earning money and looks and game if I'm just going to end up with a 5 anyway? And I was like, what the why would you even frame it that way? First off, like, why would I make my bed? It's just going to get dirty tomorrow. Or why even bother leaving the house? I'm just going to die in 90 years anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Why even wash your dick? If it gets sucked, it's clean afterwards anyway.
Here, Alex, a good point too. The scorched earth thing, it's not just women. And I think, like, Carl brought it up there when he was talking about business and that in regards to one man's way thing. This stuff's not about women. Women is just like the easy game you can play with low consequences to kind of learn it. But then once you got it, like, one man's way, he had a thing where he was over analyzing. He hope he doesn't mind me talking shop, but we talked about it on one of these. He had a fiance. I can't remember what happened off the top of my head, but eventually they split up. but he gave her an engagement ring and he wanted it back. And so we were talking about, like, what do I do? She's going to bring up this, she's going to bring up that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, just sit there, let her talk. When she's done talking, say, but I have my ring back, and just repeat it like a broken record. Your goal going into that situation is to get your ring. So everything else is irrelevant. And that was like, I'd like to think his first idea of what frame is. He came in there with a goal to get this, or in your case, you could say to start a business or whatever. That's your one goal. And everything that doesn't fit in that just is irrelevant. She can run her mouth. Don't ignore the words, fog it, whatever. Yeah, do you have my ring? And then he gets the ring and, all right, have a good day. It was nice meeting you. Have a fun life with whatever you're doing now. Ooh, we'll follow up with them too.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. It's like, yeah, let go of standard. Like sometimes you just need a slump buster, and sometimes like the quality of life checks are kind of nice to have around. Like, if you have a girl who she's mediocre and bad, she's a 5, but every time she comes over, she cleans her apartment.
Yeah,
that has value.
Trade-offs.
Like I'm not saying wife her up. All I'm saying is like you can bang, like you still got laid, and now your apartment is clean for the next chick that's coming over.
Mm-hmm. And she's happy because, according to her, this is like the best guy she's gotten in years. So she's acting like this because she's happy.
And I think that's a big thing because, like, this whole I only bang 9s and 10s, women don't give a shit about that unless they're watching it. The only people who care are the peanut gallery on Twitter.
Those wonderful, wonderful men. Quick things here on.
Like,
go ahead.
Like, I like our audience. I like my fans, but like I, for the most part, couldn't give a shit about their opinion on anything.
Yeah, for my stuff, but I think that's once guys get to where they want to be, you kind of really don't want anybody else's opinion anyway, unless you ask for it. So I'm with you. I kind of don't care either.
No, but like I've asked for opinion on things before, and when I ask someone's opinion, I obviously care about their perspective on that specific thing.
Yeah. But if you don't, it's...
Like, why do I care if some random dude in the comments on YouTube says, so Carl's audio quality was shit? Well, you know what, fuck you. I don't care.
Yeah. And now, to preface this too, and one man's way, I'll get back, there's a good point at the end of yours too here. Winemore Please brought up a good thing too. This would have been years ago, so I hope he still remembers it, where we were talking, and the difference between having frame and just LARPing it is whether you're delusional. So I do enjoy that aspect of outside opinion. When it's somebody who, and I think it's the motivations matter. If the guy actually wants those around him to do better, and this is taps into that where you're saying guys are searching for a peer group. If a guy wants me to have the best show ever, he goes, hey, by the way, your mic quality is shit and people are turning this thing off. Even if I didn't ask for that opinion, I can kind of understand, like, maybe that's coming from somewhere. Now, it's easy to go, screw him. What does he know? I'm the man. But it's a rare thing when somebody actually has your best interest at heart. So I don't want to say, I would say lean more towards Carl's side of, just go fuck yourself.
No, but like I think a lot of guys would be really, really much better off if they stopped giving a shit what everyone else thinks. Like I have a select group of people in my life whose opinion I actually care about. Mm-hmm. Everyone else can fuck off. Like, obviously, if I'm hired to do some work, then I care about the opinion of the person who hired me on how well I accomplished the work. Mm-hmm. I don't care if he likes my haircut.
But at the same time, if you're out with if you're out at the bar with a couple friends and the bartender is like, I think you've had a little too much, you should go home. Obviously, you don't care about his opinion, but you're kind of lying to yourself there, and he is looking out for you, even though it's because he's looking out for the bar. There's like the occasional rare example. But
that's one of those.
Go.
Yeah, but that's one of those rare examples where it's like, hey, buddy, I think you've had enough. At that point, okay, fair enough. Okay, you know what? You probably have a point. I'm having fun.
But that's the thing, that self-awareness to tell the difference.
Yeah, but the self-awareness when you're drunk is non-existent, man. And the problem is, like, most people are this obsessive when they're sober. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and drunking just makes it worse. I do want to add to the end of this thing for One Man's Way, where he's talking about he's hot, but nobody wants a disabled chick. I would lump that in with the same argument for single moms. I actually put that in the book as one chapter. So I'm sure you've seen the single mom thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, woe is them. They have such a hard life." Don't. Same thing as fat people. It's not their fault. Nothing's their fault. As that like hand wave it away, so you have an excuse that this is why you should date them because you're doing a good thing and you're a good man. Like you can sympathize with people's personal plight and still not take it on as your responsibility. There's my anti Jordan Peterson message.
No,
You
my
don't
thing
have
with
to
that
take
is-
on more responsibility.
No, and like the whole thing with like I banged single moms, but I would never date them
Yeah.
just because I don't want the excess baggage because you're always going to have their baby daddy in the picture in some extent. You're always going to have to deal with their kids. Like I barely date chicks who have pets, man.
To be fair, I'd take a single mom over a cat lady.
Oh yeah. But it's just like I'm for those of you who are familiar with vampire lore, like a vampire can only come into your house if you invite them in. The same thing with drama and things that are a pain in the ass. They can only enter your life if you're actively asking them to come in. And I'm trying to make my life hit like a minimum annoyance threshold. Like the only reason why my goal is to stop working for other people is because then people won't have a reason to call me and annoy me.
It's an awesome goal, by the way. Since I've stopped working for other people, it's probably been the best part. I could set my schedule 100%. I'm not accountable to somebody who, yeah, and it's just annoying. I won't even
No,
get
but
into the
even
things. I just don't like
set my schedule thing. Like, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, no matter fucking what. Like, I can get home from a party at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep. I still wake up at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning.
Oh, dude, I do that. I hate that because you feel great too, but then you look like you got hit in the face with a shovel. Everybody always asks you what's wrong. You're like, nothing's wrong. Like, what's the matter? It's like, no, I feel great.
It's just a result of like I've gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning for probably 25 years right now,
Yeah.
straight.
Oh, I'm with you. I don't
So-
even need an alarm anymore for it.
No, so I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, like boom, I'm awake. Of course, if I go back to sleep after that, I can sleep until noon. But I always wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. And that's, like I said, you just practiced and you continually did it and you didn't make a big deal out of it. And now it's just a natural part of you. Now you're actually being yourself, but you're still waking up early. You're not making a grand proclamation on Twitter. It's like, I'm going to wake up before the sun because that's what a real man does. That stupid LARPy shit here.
I don't know. My whole thing with that LARPy shit is like everyone is like, be me, do what I do. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so Jocko Wicklick was up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing push ups. Okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting here, I'm annoyed, and I'm having coffee. Like,
That's just it.
I'll do push ups later. I'm not doing push ups at 4 o'clock and at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm the worst wake up guy ever. Like, I need at least like 2 cups of coffee before anyone talks to me.
Yeah. And it's not even the caffeine. It's just like 10, 15 minutes of silence. Let me just sit here and readjust to the world. But that's the thing. He's treating the byproduct as the product. So Jocko's thing is what? Navy SEAL, right?
Yeah.
Navy SEALs get up at 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning isn't what made him a Navy SEAL. Being drowned in a pool with a bunch of other sailors for like 10 years in training and then going to war, that made him a Navy SEAL. The getting up in the 4 in the morning was an inconsequential byproduct. He'd still be the same one if the Navy SEAls are like, you get up at 10 and 11 o'clock, you better be in that pool drowning. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's the accumulation of good habits and routines. And I think that's what people need to keep in mind. It's like, if I could, I would stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning and then sleep late every day. But that fucks up my routine because my routine is get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Corona kind of screwed my routine because my routine was going to the gym 4 days a week. My routine involved 10,000 steps of moving between my domicile and my work and stores and everything. And that kind of screwed up my routine. And I think it's like that for everyone. And you have to readjust. And then once you're over this hump, then you have to re-establish those routines.
Yep.
But that Megan chick, is that a new sun hat lady? That looks
Uh,
sun hat lady-ish.
yes, but she means well. But here, quickly before that
No,
one,
I actually
my latest
disagree
video
with
was
that.
the ironing for that same reason that routines make all the difference in the world. I threw a link in there if you guys want to check it out after this. But yeah, let's deal with this one here and then the super chat.
No, but I think there's actually a pretty large pool of women who are quote unquote decent. Well, what I mean by that is, if you're looking for a virgin who's a 10, who's 18 years old, deeply Christian, and knows how to cook, clean, and bake, then you basically have to hit up the Amish for that one. But
Even the Mormon
if you-
couldn't do it.
Well, but this is kind of what pisses me off about this space. It's that every archetype is you're either God or Satan. And it's like, could we agree that there's like somewhere in between? Because there is actually like some guy said it. He was like a weight loss consultant or something who said like it's not like you're 450 pounds now and look like shit. And then you're going to look like shit until the exact point where you hit your weight loss goal. You're actually going to be slowly looking better as you're losing weight. And that's the same thing with all these accumulations of good habits. Like, once you actually start to get decent haircuts, you start grooming your beard, you start fixing your hair, you start going to the gym,
Nicer shirts.
yeah, nicer shirts, you stop eating McDonald's 7 days a week, then like all of these small things add up until the point where you're not a horrific waste of flesh and organs and oxygen.
So here's the thing
And
too
the
with
same-
Megan's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point. I'll cut it
No,
out.
and the same thing with girls. Like if you let's say you're 30 and your dating range is women 20 to 27. Like you can't expect any of them to be virgins. That's just out the window.
Yeah.
What you can kind of expect of them is that they've developed a basic ability to be adults. That means they need to be able to cook to a decent level. They don't have to be Michelin chefs, but if they burn tea water, you have a problem. They have to, be able to take care of themselves to a level expected of their age. They need to not like have that stupid baggage like a couple of kids or an ex-boyfriend who's really jealous and just got out of jail.
Or just that jaded cynicism.
Oh yeah, that's the worst, man.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So the way Megan's talking about, and a lot of guys agree with this too, well, there's just no good women anymore, so why even bother? But at the same time, the same guy will say, well, men and women are different. Men tend to be more in the extremes and women cluster around the mean. So which is it? Either women are are mostly average, or there's no average or above women anymore. Like you can't have both, and it's this weird cognitive dissonance, and people aren't squaring that circle. And here's the thing too, Megan. Those girls, a lot of girls, when they find a man they like, they start acting right. It's part of the borderline personality disorder. Like narcissism is a male disorder. Borderline is a female one. You take those like 10 out of 10 levels, you bring them like to a 5, and a borderline is just the girl that likes the Seahawks because you like the Seahawks now. It's not that she likes it because you like it. She actually convinces herself she likes it. You know what I mean? And so these average women are only, or what these below average women are only because they're not into you. And so they're not trying to meet your expectations.
Well, I'm also like, of course, you want to avoid like fat acceptance activists and everything, but
Yeah. I didn't think we had to say that, but it is the internet.
No, but like you don't get to have standards until you have options. When you have options, you're allowed to have standards. You're not allowed to have standards before that, man. It's like if you're not eating right now, and your option is eating out of a garbage can, then eating out of a garbage can, then you can be discerning about what you eat from the garbage can.
Is this about going down on a girl?
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Oh, yeah. Never go down on that girl. It's not alpha.
Dude, that one was, it's so annoying. 140. I had to tweet this one out. You're not allowed to have options till you have standards, and then I quoted you on that one. I'm like, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's worthy of like platitude Twitter right there.
Well, it's kind of a platitude, but I think for me it's true though. Like you
Well,
can't
it's a
have
good one.
standards until you actually have options to choose from, because you have standards to discern between options.
Hmm.
And if no one's touched your penis in like 15 years, then you don't get to have, like, at that point, even if it's like a gay dude who just came out of the closet, who's nervous, and he just wants to touch another guy's penis,
Just close your
even
eyes and let
that's
it
a
happen.
step up. Even that's a step up from your current situation.
Hey, whatever. Slump busters are slump busters. If you're starting from -7 and you're going to +7, that's the path. I like Adriano's here. Does the wall really exist for women? And I love this topic because I don't think guys understand what the wall is. Because the arguments are always the same. Well, women hit the wall and they usually use 30 as the arbitrary number. And then they'll point out a 40-year-old hot chick and they're like, see, there's no wall. She's still hot. And I think they miss the point. And I know Rolo talks about it at length, but I think we can kind of put it quick. I'll go first here and then you go into it. The wall is essentially a girl has the same arc that everybody else does. She has a rising action, a peak, and then a drop off. For girls, it tends to rise very quickly and very early, and then it drops off suddenly. So if you're a 30-year-old girl, you're not as hot as you were when you're 23. You don't get the same male attention as when you're 33. Your baggage tends to accumulate at a certain point, and I'm just using this as like an arbitrary number. Some girls it's bigger, some girls it's smaller. There's a certain age where your like jaded personality kind of comes through if you haven't gotten what you want out of life. There's all these different factors that you would go into the archetype of what you think of as woman, that they all tend to be really quick and really good early on. Royce said that in his article about dating girls by age demographic. He said nothing is more pleasant than a girl between, I think it was 23 and 27. He goes, these girls are fun, they're pleasant, they don't have baggage, nothing. But he's like 27, like after 30s, like they all seem to have baggage. There's always some kind of chip on their shoulder and that. So you can point out individual like 45-year-old women that are super hot and good to you. And I wish more women were like that. But I guarantee if you put that woman against her 22-year-old self, you'll probably see that same decline, even though her scale is just logarithmic. Meanwhile, the other girls is, I don't know what the word is for it when basically she's in a different class. Exponential, thank you. I know, what are your thoughts on this one? But yeah, it does exist and it is real.
Oh yeah, it does. But I think I'm more with you here. Like, okay, women can be hot until way into their 40s or maybe even 50s in some cases with good genes and plastic surgery.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more about the accumulation of baggage over time, which results in a negative attitude. And like, just because a girl is 30, like if she would, let's say she was in a relationship with one dude, she has no kids. Since she was 16 to 30, she's going to have a lot less baggage than a girl who's been pumped and dumped for 12 years.
Yeah.
And the reality of most Western women, at least, is that they've had their fun periods, and that kind of screws them up because that's when they get the, oh yeah, I was supposed to get with this guy, but he only fucked me. He treated me like a booty call because that's what she was to him. She wasn't quite up to his standard. And it's that
Yeah.
unfortunate cynicism and baggage and lack of energy and hating life that I just can't be around negative people, man. It's something I've come to realize as I've gotten older. I just can't stand fucking being around negative people.
Yeah, permanently negative. My
And
girl
well, the
keeps bringing
people,
it back on Facebook, like her friends. A lot of them are just brutal. Brutal.
and it's like being negative at a period. Like every one of us has like hard periods in our life where it's cool to be a little bit down. But at that point, if you're not willing to do shit about it, then who's gonna deal with that shit? Like, okay, let's say your girl is depressed, right?
Hmm.
You're gonna put up with that for a little bit, and then you're gonna start suggesting, hey, do you want to go see a doctor? Do you want to get some medication? If she kind of shuts that down and just wallows, she's laying in bed eating fucking chalupas all day, getting fat, not showering, not doing anything. You're gonna not gonna put up with that for a long period of time.
Yeah. Then you realize she doesn't want to be better. She wants to feel that. And then it lets you know where her priorities are. It's like that Clary article where girls like food more than they like their man.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah, well, it's essentially what you're talking about. It's a girl, if she really prioritized her man above food, she would stop eating her way to obesity and she would try to stay looking good for him, and vice versa. But I just let you know, like, how people act shows you their priorities more than what they talk about.
Acta non verba. I'm just sorry that Family Alpha ruined that shit, man. God damn it.
That's fine. That stuff's all gone now. I'm actually kind of curious now where Zach's going to go with this. I'm still rooting for him. I'm not going to lie. We're part of like the same alumni class, so whatever. All the professional differences aside.
Yeah, people who got duped by Anthony.
But you did call it like you either leave right away or you leave in 6 months saying, look, I tried to make the best of it, but it just wasn't working. But you're like, 2 years is kind of like pushing it. So I guess that's the solution.
Well, yeah, that's my stance on like a bad deal. Like you stay with it. It's a proportion thing. I would say that the amount you spend trying to solve a bad situation is proportional to the duration of the situation as a whole. Like if you've been together with someone for 10 years, spending a year working on your difference is about 8% of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. If your relationship starts sucking after 6 months and you spend a year and a half trying to fix it, that's fucked up, bro. You don't do that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll do a quick break. Physician rehab, S-curve much here. Gotta go simulate murder. I'm assuming you're talking about video games and not S&M, but whatever. Women don't mature, but they do age. That's actually a good take. I kind of like that one. And I'm kind of glad for it, too. I don't know, a girl who's too serious and business focused when you're just sitting here trying to talk about the weather is kind of annoying. But have fun, man. Have fun with your simulated murder. And then John, $5 here. I tend to listen to too much red pill when I do my work and I get information overload. Limiting it to a bit of me and old Royce a day and put it into practice. Dude, that's probably the smartest thing that's been ever said on this podcast ever. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, except the Ryan part, but Royce is a good movement.
Whatever, at least my mic quality's good. And my shit.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, yeah, you're right. Information overload. A huge part of the guys who are... And that's kind of the byproduct of the buffer. You just want to watch one more thing. You want to consume one more piece of content. But then by the time that's all done, you're so bewildered by so much stuff out there, you have a harder time making focus for yourself. You know?
Oh, yeah, because you have all this stuff and you're like, okay, I should... Like, you know the old bodybuilding magazines?
Oh, yeah. Like Muscle and Fitness and Flex.
Yeah. And they had like 18 different routines in the same mag. And you read the first one, you're like, yeah, I'm going to try that next week. And you read the next one, oh, I'm trying that too next week, and I'm trying this, and I'm trying this, and I'm trying this, and I'm trying this. And suddenly you're not working out so much as you're just trying routines for one workout. And it kills your results. Like, if you're going to do day game, for instance, let's say you decide to do day game like Troy.
Yeah.
Okay, just do that for like 6 weeks. Don't try and mix that shit up. Just do day game.
Yeah.
It's like 6 to 8 weeks is usually what I'd recommend for a workout program to see how it works. And I say do the same thing. If you're trying like the London day game model, do it for 8 weeks.
I'm still listening. 8 weeks.
And that way you can at least get some results because you don't get you get quick wins in some things, but it's very rare to get good results very quickly with anything.
Yeah.
So
I had
just
to have
take
the
your time with
self-awareness
it.
to know how it happened.
And like I can get the information overload because I more or less stopped reading red pill stuff like a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you and me
Like
both.
the
I
old-
don't look at anything other than like this.
Like I occasionally will check out and see like, okay, what was on Rule Zero, or what's Ryan been talking about, or what have people been posting, and I do check my Twitter feed, but that's about the extent of reading I do.
Yeah.
Just because it also has a negative influence on you because you feel like you're not doing enough even if you're in a good place. Like the people who aren't, and it's kind of funny though, that whole thing. Like the people who are doing everything feel like they're not doing enough, And the people who aren't doing shit think they're doing plenty.
Dude, you know that's a perfect parallel to like the COVID stuff. Like when this first started, my girl was watching the news on it all the time, and she had like constant anxiety. And my buddy and his wife, same thing. They decided like a month into it, like, you know what, no more TV. Life didn't get any more dangerous. They stopped having anxiety, and they actually started acting safer. Like they stopped being like the mask is that false sense of security for a lot of people. So they go out and do dangerous behaviors, but they think because 7 news guys said wear a mask made out of a sock or you're going to die. But instead, it's like, okay, so I'm not wearing a mask, but I'm not going to lick old people. And I think it's that same concept there when you said to like the red pill stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like if you're sitting on a date with a girl and the only thing going through your mind, am I maintaining frame? Am I leading in? Did I cross the green line? Did I cross the green line? Did I cross the green line? Then it's not beneficial to you to read more. What you need to do is actually go out and try to be normal.
Yeah. And then worry about being exceptional. Oh, I remember I'm going to try and find it here. Do some more talking.
Oh, shit. Wasn't planning for that.
Put you on the spot. Well, there was a
but
post on it.
I think
Oh,
it's
there it
like and I think it's the like you remember back when like all the fitness coaches were suddenly red pilled.
is. Oh, yeah. It was popular for a minute. I'm sure they're coming back now that Elon Musk is in on it.
He's in on working out, or is he in on
Red pill. I
Oh,
guess.
shit.
So I didn't really follow it. He just said, take the red pill. And I thought he was talking about political stuff. But then in my private Patreon yesterday, one of the guys were pointing out that his baby mama was bitching him out in the Twitter in his comments,
Yeah.
saying, you're going to talk about that stupid MRA stuff while I had a hard pregnancy and that. And I was like, oh, maybe he is into it.
Well, I think he was probably the guy who needed it because he was simping hard for a long time.
Oh, hard, multiple. And he's kind of, I can tell if this is true, he's going to be in that position now. Here's what I was looking for. He's in that position now where it's going to start to bite him in the ass.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
Dude, I love this one because that's a perfect example of exactly what you're talking about. Here, we can see so you guys can see it.
Oh, that's a perfect one, man.
Yeah, kudos. I got that one from my thought researcher there, Danny California.
And the funny thing is, like, if I could point out like the one guy who's helped me the most, like in the manosphere since the last 2 years, it's actually Tanner.
I can see that actually, yeah. Zero bravado, just work and not really too ego invested in it, yeah.
Yeah, it's also the fact that Tanner is actually he helps guys because I think if you start to get things handled, you're in like let's say normal shape.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have like let's say a 32 to 34 inch waist instead of a 38 to 48 inch waist. You're reasonably tall. You know how to get a decent haircut. Don't look like you're about to tie someone down to train tracks.
Fair point.
Or like if you should be on the back of an elephant hunting tigers in the middle of the jungle. Or like someone who's like a James Bond, not a Sherlock Holmes villain who just came home from the Dutch East India Company.
Or somebody who's racing against Yogi Bear in the Hanna-Barbera races. Yes, yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So once you have all these small things handled, then you can actually be yourself. Because at that point, you actually want to let your natural personality come through, not to qualify, but to disqualify others. Because that's really what all this stuff is about. It's about getting yourself to the point where you actually have enough options that you can be discerning about your options.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never going to have a perfect option. Like, perfect life for me is laying on a beach somewhere, just chilling and drinking, non-stop while native girls bring me papaya and shit.
So
Like,
basically, you want to live like the end of Shawshank Redemption, except for instead of sanding your boat, you want a chick.
But, I mean, that's probably not going to be a likely choice. But if I can get somewhere near that, it's good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing. Like, most people don't want that perfection thing. And whenever you see a guy who's like, I have the perfect program, asking, would you want his life?
Oh, dude, I don't want anybody's life. That's the thing.
Because if someone's out there, like the one thing I'm sure about, I don't want to be shilling products on Twitter. If that's my business plan, sorry, I'm out. Well, that's not even a dig at like guys like you and Rolla, because you guys don't actually shill products on Twitter in that sense. You
Yeah,
use
well,
that as
I
a
was doing the
platform
book
to
there for a
engage.
while, but I was proud of it, so I have no apologies.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that a dyslexic guy could put out a book, but good on you.
The trick is you get a really good editor and then hire a good editor after you fire the first one.
It's like, do I want to be shilling products on Twitter with a white beard when I'm in my 60s, or look like I'm in my 60s? Probably not.
No, I agree on that one. And I get it. So I know there's a few people who shill things. Like I'm pretty sure Cernovich is just killing it with Gorilla Mind Rush or whatever the hell he does. If you're getting like six-figure payouts for your things, I can see that because that puts you on a really short path to retirement. But if you're constantly having to hustle for like making rent every month, I would definitely. But I think it's not so much shilling products on Twitter. It's aiming high enough that a success is actually a success. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. It's like if your idea of success is being location independent at 30K a year, living in some rat hole apartment in the Philippines, well, okay, nice for you, but I'd like to actually live in a Western country because Western countries are the best, no doubt.
They are really nice. Good weather, nice
It's
people, the occasional
reasonably
riot, but it's
clean.
outside. Yeah, clean.
Yeah, but you don't usually don't get riots in countries where the police aren't openly killing black people.
Yeah, fair enough. But he was jaywalking, so he kind of had it covered.
Yeah, but I also did hear though that the Walmart just got a new load of 4K 70-inch flat screens, so it was probably a good time to riot.
Nice. That and the Foot Locker store. I still laugh at that. The guy listing the businesses that were that were rioted, like the Foot Locker. I'm like, really, Jordans now? All right, fair enough. I didn't want to be too racist to get banned off of Twitter, so I just kind of inferred, like, really, Foot Locker?
Well, you're dark enough you can get away with it, but not
Yeah.
quite dark enough you can drop N bombs.
True. The only way it would have been more on the nose if like a watermelon symposium had just been like looted or something stupid
Yeah,
like
the
that.
KFC got looted.
Yeah, the Popeyes.
Yeah, well, it's like if white people rioted and everything that was stolen was like the Lacoste store.
Yeah. Oh,
The
exactly.
Lacoste store and mayonnaise. That was all that was taken.
Lacoste mayonnaise. Every Starbucks had all their sugar-free hazelnuts just cleaned off the shelves. It was horribly tragic. All the IPAs at the liquor store gone. There we go. Equal opportunity. But I agree. Mine, honestly, I don't want the beach, but my like vision in my head is in Split, Croatia. So there's like a Roman palace for like one of their emperors, the only one who ever retired and wasn't killed apparently. To sit in one of those little like coffee shops there, having an espresso or a glass of wine and just reading something with like pigeons in the little thing there. That's kind of like my version of the boat on the beach thing. And you're right, you're never going to achieve it, but you have that kind of as your goal. I'm not going to try and tell people that if you guys aren't doing this, then what are you doing with your life? Buy my course. I find that's kind of ham-fisted. And it only really works. Like, if you want to be a demagogue like that, it only works if all you're looking for is sycophants, which I call
It
the
also
Game
work-
Oil effect.
Also works for desperate people, then.
Well, that's what a sycophant is. He's only going to stick around with you because he's desperate and he wants you to give him something.
So I don't know, man. The whole thing is just screwed up, and I wish more guys would just take whatever you can and just go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
And
But
like stop worrying about shit tests. Stop worrying about leaning in, and just do kind of what comes naturally, unless that is very unattractive behavior. Like it comes back to that rule: like be attractive, don't be unattractive.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of them is the only reason that shit tests and comfort tests and fitness tests and congruence tests and fogging and amuse mastery and agree and amplify are there because those are just models for a behavior. And your current models for behavior are shit. So like, here's some new ones. Practice these because you're an autist. We'll spell it out in a 10-point list. Once you get good at them, stop thinking about it anymore. You've essentially swapped out your mental models with better mental models. You're acting attractive, and now you don't have to sit here thinking like, is this thing a shit test? Because you can just, like you said, naturally act. But this is always supposed to be transitory that way, and that's why I always get a weird feeling in my stomach when guys treat this as like the father figure 2.0 clubhouse of masculinity thing. It's like you're trying to make the temporary into a permanent thing, and it's just not a healthy long-term solution.
Well, that's why I love the guy who came up with Sick Game.
Oh, you were talking about that one. Who was that? Was that Torero?
I can't remember who did it, but it was the story is just stuck in my mind because like the guy was like he was a PUA of some kind,
Right.
but he was really sick. He just had to go to the store for some medicine or something, and he saw a hot chick, and he's like, I'd really like to get to know that. I'd really like to go on a date with that chick when I'm better. I'll go get her number. He just walked over to her, like he's in his like shitty ratty ass clothes. He's sick, so he hasn't showered for a day or two. Like he nose is red from like wiping it so much, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, listen, I'm really sick. I'm just here to get medication, but you're hot. Give me your number. I want to hit you up for a date when I'm better." And he
Did it
number
work?
closed off. Yeah, he number closed off that one. And that's why I like hungover game too, because like when you're hungover, you have like zero tolerance for shit, and you can't really think straight.
So you have
So
you have to be direct and honest and blunt.
yeah,
I like it. It's probably a breath of fresh air. Lunch hours and coffee breaks were good for that one too, because you're so pressed for time. You created your own like natural scarcity, which is a display of higher value. If somebody has something else better to do, but he's stopping for a minute for you, that's an awesome thing. You don't have to fake that one.
yeah. Like I'm pretty sure if you were on cancer treatment and you hit up one of the nurses, like, "Hey, listen, babe, I'm gonna head in to get my radiology treatment now, but give me your number. I want to hit you up once I beat this cancer." You'd have the number instantly.
Ooh, and if you don't get the number, that means you're probably not going to survive, and they just haven't told you yet. It's like, ask me again next week. Ouch. I guess I'll get my affairs in order.
I just think guys overcomplicate things and they read too much. They don't do enough work and they don't feel tested. And that's what I liked about like the old PUA days. If you had a convoluted idea, people would tell you it was bullshit. And if you had some idea, you went out and field tested it, and you put up a field report. Other people tested it, and if it worked for them too, then it's part of the
The lexicon.
part of the whole body of knowledge.
No, I agree. That's why more people need to do it, because it hurts the body of information if people aren't doing enough. If people are just buying what you say wholesale, you're right. All it's going to turn into, because then it incentivizes people to collect more followers, I guess, lack of a better word. And if they don't actually have to do anything to earn them, of course they're just going to take what somebody else has said, kind of rehash it so it sounds better and appeals to the sensibilities of somebody who's not attractive enough yet to internalize this stuff. And
Yeah, there's also. Sorry. Go.
it creates the same problem that people are there to try to fix. So it's self-sabotaging.
Yeah, it's like if you're like a 30-year-old fitness coach working at Planet Fatness, and you're out there trying to be a leader of men, what kind of like who wants to be like a 30-year-old fitness coach at Planet Fatness? Nobody.
Hey, thanks, Arnold, for the €2. I have a feeling, Carl, you're supposed to crack open a beer at this point. Hey, guys, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't have any beer left, man.
That's fine.
It's getting to the point where I'm like when you have a COVID isolation, you have to kind of stay with the gin tonics. It's easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, the hard liquor is good too. Less calories. You get the buzz quicker, so you can kind of stop earlier. There's no reason not to. But then again, like not drinking at all would be better. So maybe it's best just to go on that 1 week bender early on, so you're sick of it. That's always been my plan. Like I always have a huge sweet tooth for candy, so I don't just buy like a package of candy because I'll eat a package and then I'll buy another one tomorrow. So what I do is I go to Walmart, buy a big tub of like the crappiest gummy worms I could find, and then halfway through the tub, I'm just sick of sugar and I throw it out, and then I'm done for like a month. I don't know if that's good advice, but whatever. That'll make you a leader of man.
I don't know. I think it's just necessarily like one success. That's not really the point either. One more place. It's more that you it's not like you have to do a 20-point bullet point checklist to be able to number close someone. All you have to do is go up to a girl and ask.
Yeah. Either a numbers game, get the right collection of like incentives in place. There's things you can do to make it more likely or less likely, but you're right. At the end of the day, that is the keystone. Go up, ask for the number. Everything else is just the game part that makes it more interesting than treating it like a rote transaction.
Yeah, but in the end, it's all a rote transaction, and in the end, we're all doing this to improve our own lives, in my opinion, rather than have negative effects. And that's why I kind of dropped out of PUA back in the day, when I started seeing guys who were dropping out of college in engineering degrees and software degrees and shit to go do PUA full time. Because at that point, you're screwing up your long term plan for something that is fun, but ultimately like short term. It's a skill set you should learn, but in the end, like if you have enough money, you'll get girls anyway, man.
Oh
And
yeah, but you won't keep them, and that's the game argument. Like learning how not to be supplicative or follow your natural instincts to be overly protective and just get hoodwinked.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. But it's also it comes down to like if you want enough money to live the lifestyle you want, you need enough girls to have sex when you want. You need enough of social slash tribe to be able to have social interactions and develop a normal personality. And you also have to learn at some point that no one can be number one 100% of their life. Like at some point, you're going to have to actually develop good followership too, not just good leadership.
Yeah.
This is a lot of things you need to learn, and in the end, it all requires work. Like you can't read yourself. Like you can read 1,000 books on carpentry, you're still gonna smack your fucking thumb with the hammer.
This reminds me of one of like the very first things you said in this space too, where you think everybody should be mandatory, have like 3 years of military service or 3 years in a corporate environment to learn to ditch the bravado. And I think that still is true now as it was then. Like you guys, 100% better men in here if you smash that like button. Right now we're at 220 viewers, 121 likes, which is super awesome. But that just means that 80 to 100 of you guys haven't liked it yet, and it hurts my heart. Good followership matters important. I'm not really good at the pitch. Just hit the like button.
One thing is like every group of men has like a couple of guys who are like the leadership of that group. And usually it's kind of a dynamic thing, and you want it. Like ultimately, if you're in like high performing groups, everyone in that group is a leader.
Yeah.
And everyone in that group has good followership.
Yeah, they have to. Otherwise, nothing could get done because you'd be butting heads all day.
Yeah, but if you get a group with just leaders and nobody has good followership, and everyone has to push things through their way, it's never going to work. Let's see what's Arnold in chat saying.
Yeah, he says, I know many. I went to school who got married, built a house, had some kids, went through a divorce, and now are in debt. I failed in achieving that. There's a good failure. I failed in picking up my life. Dude, kudos on that one. Yeah, dude, and that's the thing. So I have a friend we talk about all the time. I know he's in like a marriage of quiet desperation, and he loves his kids, and he kind of got hooked by one of his plates, one of the worst ones too. She just got pregnant, and then she refused to do anything about it, and he stuck it together for the kids, and he's in that quiet desperation now. That's the only reason I don't prescribe 100% to the just be attractive and everything will be fine thing. You'll earn some money in that. Because there's like a huge psychological mental game underneath it. And that's the part I like for books. But you're right. That comes at the tail end of everything he did to be attractive, to be fit, to have his life put together. That's like the self-actualization side of things. And I'm starting to lean towards more that side of the focus as opposed to, 10 reasons why girls are crap and you need to lift. Because you're right. That stuff kind of sells itself. But I was thinking, what were we just talking about before this one?
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about gold diggers if you're broke as fuck, man.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't have to worry about gold diggers if you have strong boundaries, too, and you just don't buy girls' things.
It's like, that's what I love about these MGTOWs. They're like, oh, I will never have a girl because she'll take all my shit. But, well, you don't have to worry about getting the girl first, bro. It's
Yeah.
not like you walk out. It's like some married guys when you tell them to flirt with the cashier at the grocery store, and they're like, "Oh, but then I'll end up cheating." It's like, dude, come on,
Yeah.
man. Your wife hasn't touched your penis in a year. Do you think like the girl at the grocery store is going to jump off the cash register and blow you right there?
Exactly. I say that all the time. I'm like, guys, their pickup artistry was created because there's 100 different ways for guys to get blown out of the water and not have sex, and to try and navigate against all of them. Do you honestly think you're going to accidentally solve that? Like, just go as far as you're comfortable with, and then anti-slut defense, last minute resistance, do Kino escalate too early. There's 100 different ways you can make yourself fail. Don't worry about that before you even start.
No, but like my last part when I was doing like I think I did 40 first dates in a month.
Oh yeah, I never heard hear about that other than you were really sick and tired of it.
No, but like at the in the beginning, you actually because at that point I'd been working a lot, so I hadn't been out dating much for a while.
Yeah.
So like the first five or six were like real clumsy. Then I started to hit a stride, and then last 15 or so, it was basically like, are we going to fuck? If not, then fuck off. I have a new date I have to go to. That was my entire attitude in those days. I was just like, it was pure like direct game.
Which probably ended up working better because that just wafted off of your body and everything that you were speaking, body language, your congruence, that fear of missing out, like abundance. It's either me or somebody else, so I either have to fight to keep them or let them go. So I don't. I can only imagine your game got tighter at that point.
Yeah, like the last one worked, and that's the point where I basically said to every guy, like, just stop doing all this game shit. Just go out, be direct as fuck, and just let's see how many people you end up sleeping with. Just do that. Like, if you're not haven't gotten laid in a year, put on clean clothes, go out to a major trafficked city or a nightclub, and go up to every girl there and ask, "Do you want to go home with me and fuck?" Because I promise you, like one girl or two girls or three girls are going to bite on that.
See, I don't know. The only reason I can't go with that is because there's a whole lot of logistics. It's like that. Have you ever seen that meme where how to draw an owl? First draw some circles, then draw the rest of the fucking owl. And that's kind of how most people talked about pickup before. Just go talk to her, bro. The problem is guys who aren't at your level of, I would say, experience. They don't like, yeah, go up, talk to a girl, ask for a number. How do I say that? How do I do body language? Like, there's all those little things that they never even thought about before that most guys either learn through experience or just natural set of skills and luck. So I don't mind the autistic stuff there because that's kind of useful. If I'm approaching girls and nobody's ever shown me how to iron a shirt before and I look like I just pulled it out of my wallet, yeah, some guy giving me a 10-step list on how to iron a shirt is going to help my game. Now, whether I know I need that one or not, that's kind of the trickier part. And that's where guys need to stop analyzing and just start doing. Because you're not going to know your problems till you go screw it up. Like, do your thing, Carl. Go talk to 100 girls. Hey, do you want to come sleep with me? Have a place to take them to. Let's say 99 say no, one says yes. The 99 who said no, he gets like every single one of them looked at my shoes, realized I'm wearing Birkenstocks, and told me to go fuck myself. At least then they know they got to dress better. But after you do these failures, you're going to learn. And that's where I think the reading and the analysis and stuff comes in handy. After you know what your problems are. And I don't think there's going to be any book or video or podcast or course out there where a guy's going to learn it.
Well, to pull a Rolo, I wrote an article called Low Hanging Fruit a while back. And the whole point of that article was, like, the first thing you do when you hit the space, you fix all the obvious shit. Like, okay, get clothes that fit if you don't have them. Wash your penis. Wash your balls if you don't. Go to your barber. Like, never go to a female hairdresser. Go to a barber. And tell them, like, I need something that looks good. I have no idea what looks good. Can you please fix this shit? The older the guy is, the better.
Yeah.
Most of the time. If your entire cooking thing is composed of takeaway, learn how to fry a fucking egg. If your diet is screwed up, just start getting like 100 to 150 grams of protein a day. That's all you need to do. It's satiating, you'll be full.
Yeah.
Get deodorant, get get some kind of cologne. Just ask the girl there what she likes. Like, go with the masculine sense. It's like all these simple things. You can do it for under $300 in a day. Just get that done. Then you go out and you start talking to girls, and then you can start reading. Yeah, like if you're wearing Axe body spray and you're over 14, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. And then once you're there, but that's when game stuff matters. Because for some guys, and you always get that, that's the I'm tired of just spinning plates. I want something more meaningful, which is a bullshit thing. It just means they aren't having fun with what they're doing. I love game for that. It turns game into a game, and games are fun. So instead of sitting down playing Fortnite for 12 hours a day, you're, flirting with women and being charismatic, and you've gamified it. It's no different than having that armband on with your cell phone tracking the GPS on your run to see how fast you're going on the first half of your run versus the second. You know what I mean? And it just gamifies it. We're an 8-bit generation. We were raised on no friendo. So it's just the way that we kind of respond to things now. And at least you're making it work for you.
I do kind of like the story of how you ended up with your girl. It's like, well, she still hasn't given me a reason to get rid of her. I'm just trying, but she bitch hasn't given me a reason.
Yeah. It was the funniest thing. And it's like lasted longer than a whole bunch of the trads out there talking about their 5-year marriages. And I'm like, dude, our first date was to a bondage party that we didn't know we were going to in like East Hastings in Vancouver, which if you don't know, that's like Canada's Oakland. Or Canada's Minneapolis, apparently. It's like not any of the stuff you'd expect. I ditched a stripper to hang out with her when we first started dating. I think I left that one out of the story too. But I mean, like, it's like you said, don't worry about is she a good Catholic trad girl? Just focus on what matters for you. And for me, what mattered to me was not having a girl a pain in my ass. Like you said, keep it simple, keep it plain Jane normal.
Okay, so we actually have a good question here from William.
Do you want to start this one, or do you want me to?
How old are you? I wouldn't know how old he is, but if he's a younger guy, then life has a way of fixing that stuff for you, because I didn't envision myself working in the niche I'm working in now. It just kind of happened. And I know that, like, I know it's kind of a non-answer, but my whole approach is that I'll do whatever job is available and seems the most interesting at a given moment. And over time, those things will kind of make you a specialist in a given field.
Yeah. I'd say the same thing. Honestly, get drunk and then make a decision. That was how I did it. When I was at home, I could have gone and worked out in the mill like everybody else or stayed on the ranch and that. I got drunk one day. I saw my stepfather had smoked pot and got hammered and drove his Harley around, like trying to live up like it was Sturgis. He almost hit the house. Then he took my blanket and passed out in the bathroom. So I just had a couple drinks, got drunk, and like, you know what? I'm going to college. Screw it. So I went to college, did the graphic design thing. Wasn't liking it. It wasn't working for me. I was there with a buddy one day, got drunk, and we were talking about how both of our dads had a brief stint in the military. I'm like, I'm going to join the military. So I sobered up, joined the military, bought my first house, completely hammered. I'm like, I should probably buy a place. I've got a down payment. Let's be an responsible adult. I got hammered, called a real estate agent, looked at a place, bought a house. Same thing. When I left the military, I got drunk one day, decided I was really tired of being taken for granted. And I'm like, you know what? I'm out. Screw it. Everything happened. It was just literally something wasn't working. I made a decision to rectify it, and I did, and I just followed through. And then it ended up pushing me to here. And I don't think I'm going to be doing this in 5 years. I'll probably be doing something else. But Scott Adams talks about it. It's like you said, it's like a talent stack. Maybe when you first got into your industry, you were doing one thing, which transitioned to another thing. But then those two skills really pair well to give you like something unique that you could bring to a third niche.
Well, it's the same thing as relationships, man. It's like I hate when guys are like, I have to find that one girl. She has to be a leader. Like, no, you don't want to find the right girl. You want to eliminate all the wrong girls.
Yeah.
Same thing, like with jobs and with finding a niche. You don't have to find exactly what you want to do. You just have to figure out what the fuck you don't want to do. Like, I know I don't want to flip burgers at an Arby's. Okay.
I agree. I don't want to be. I don't want to be a corporate analyst.
like the more things you can actually stack up that you know, like, okay, I don't want to do that shit, the better off you are, because at that point you're getting somewhere. Like like I said, I'm a big whiskey guy. I can't say that like I what I like in a whiskey, but I know for sure what I don't like in a whiskey. And that's kind of enough, in my opinion.
But you had to try a lot of crappy whiskeys to know that, though. And I think that ties well into the topic here.
Yeah, and you have to fuck a lot of questionable hoes and date and be in a relationship with a lot of them to figure out what you don't want in them.
Yeah, I dated single
Like,
moms. That's why I know I don't like single moms. It's not because Donovan Sharp had 7 videos showing me while they're all trash with tweet evidence.
yeah, like it's, you like the fun party girls seems interesting at first, but then after going to parties for like 48 hours straight parties with cocaine for months, you start to be like, okay, you know what, I need a nap.
Exactly. All right, here's the none. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty. I want more of a relationship with women because they don't want to use condoms. Technically, you don't need a relationship not to use condoms. So I don't know if your issue is you don't want to knock up a girl or you don't want to catch the hep. If it's the first one, I have a much easier solution that solves all that. Just involves getting a snip. They can reverse it. And if it's about not getting the hep, well, it's a crapshoot either way. I don't. Condoms help. They're like that masks. You may still catch it because you can always catch it orally too, right?
Well, I would say with that specific one, like I would never let a woman be in control of the birth control.
Yeah. Oh, that's very few hard and fast, ironclad rules. That's one of them.
So he would need to get the snip if he doesn't want to use condoms.
Mm-hmm.
Or Vasogel could hopefully come out.
Oh yeah, whatever happened to that? I remember it was like the MRAs and the MGTOWs were all over it, and it was trials are being done in India, and then nothing ever happened, and everybody's back to ragging on single moms again.
Yeah, I think they're. Well, I'm looking at it now because I would actually like to get one of those.
But a Vasogel or the snip?
No, the Vasogel thing.
Yeah. Well, I'll be kind of curious. Maybe we'll make an episode on that. We'll do some research and talk about some research articles and how the type or the class 2 trials went and bitch about how feminists are like, no, this will make the patriarchy or some, I don't know, whatever, some fat broad who's never going to get the issue anyway is going to complain about it.
But pretty much, like, don't let the women be in control of the birth control because that's a surefire guarantee that she'll get pregnant when she wants to.
Yep. And they're very clever about it too. My buddy had this. It's not that she wanted to, but she, for some reason, girls always seem to be able to forget their birth control, but they never forget to leave the house without makeup. And they swear they're forgetful and they completely forgot about it, but it's kind of like their biological instinct. Like, you know that feeling where I should go to the gym? Well, I'll just sit down and have one game of World of Warcraft first. And then next thing you know, it's 4 hours later, you didn't go to the gym. I think it's like that for girls with birth control once they reach that age where they kind of want one.
Yeah, that I'll just have one beer moment.
Yeah, that's the one. I guess, yeah, one game of WoW. What the hell does that even mean? It's one constant cliffhanger after another.
Like the Netflix, like I'll just watch one more episode moment.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, honestly, at that time, here's the thing. So I like the 5 whys for this. Like, you keep asking why, and you never have to ask more than 5 times to get to the root issue. So for I want a relationship because I don't want to wear condoms. Well, why don't you want to wear condoms? You'll have an answer for that. Well, why don't you want that? And then you ask why enough, you're eventually going to get to the core concern that you have. And then once you deal with that directly, you're not dealing with these external symbols. Like, for example, that MGTOW guy saying, why would I go through all this effort when I'm just going to end up with a 5? Well, why does being with the 5 bother you? He didn't have an answer because he's not self-aware enough, but maybe it's he thinks he's hotter than a 5 and he should never have to settle for anything less than what he is. And then if you find out that's his concern, then that's something else you can deal with. But just going MGTOW is not the answer for him.
I don't know, man. I just think MGTOW is one of like. Here's the thing: if you were going your own way, why the fuck do you need to talk about it constantly?
Mm-hmm. Or argue.
Yeah.
I shut up Rich's one. You see that one? Like, who's the most popular MGTOW you guys know? And I retweeted it. I'm like, guys, why are you even engaging this? Like, do you think you're going to sway us so we're going to be for it again? And like, oh, that makes sense. I like that guy. No, we're just going to tell you to piss off.
Yeah, who is the most popular MGTOW guy?
It was a tie between Turd Flinging Monkey and Nicholas Tesla.
Who the fuck is Nicholas Tesla?
Or Tesla, whatever. I'm screwing up his name. Yeah, Nikolai Tesla?
No idea what the hell that is.
Tesla.
Yeah, I know
AMC guy.
Tesla is like the original one, but not
Yeah.
the guy who's using his name.
No. He was saying he was the most popular MGTOW.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
laughs, because I was like, let me look into this thing. And it turns out Tesla, for like the last 15 years of his life, was trying to do the wireless power thing, but never did anything. He just basically wasted his time, and he had one good invention early on. I'm like, yeah, that kind of sounds like a MGTOW hero. Never got laid, but didn't do any work either. But everybody they would pick, and it was always like just random people. Turd Flinging Monkey's great MGTOW for this. Or nobody mentioned things that I would have thought of. Like, remember Sandman and Terrence Pop or Aaron Clary? Like, nobody mentioned any of those guys because they were actually just happy going their own way. They always had to pick these guys that were very complainy.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the thing, though. Like, if you're a complainy dude, you want other people to complain with you. Like, misery loves company.
Mm-hmm. Worst problem with the internet is it lets miserable people have camaraderie.
Yeah, the best thing about the internet, a lot of free porn of every kind. Worst thing, a lot of people who complain and want to shoot their mouth. Like,
it's like that
if
damn
anything-
genie. He gives you your wish, but it's always like fucked up backwards version of it. Like, damn it! I wanted free porn. I didn't want all the crap that came with it.
Yeah, but it's like, if you think about it, like, the internet gave us access to information and the ability to talk to anyone, and the one thing it made me realize is, like, most people should shut the fuck up. Like, Christopher Hitchens has this great quote, because, like, some journalist asked him, do you think it's true that everyone has a book in them? And he answered, yes, and in most cases, that's where it should remain.
I like that one. I really do like that one. Yeah, I'll say that with half the books of the sphere. Screw that. Once you get past the first page of recommendations here, you guys don't need these guys. You don't need that book by Socrates. You don't need Corey's book. Just stop at Aaron, Clary, and Carl and leave it at there. All right, I guess we should wrap this one up, though. Rule 0 is going to be starting in half an hour. I think it's John's channel. Yeah. On that note, I'll just throw buy my course. I'm just joking. The latest video on doing chores, you're going to see that one there. I literally iron and talk about Archwinger's article. So it'll be a nice read in there. Same thing, Fuck Files in fancy stores today. I'm going to be releasing it on Kobo. Release date is set for the 1st of the month. So I'll get a link to that once they do the approval. That should be in today. If for all those of you who actually have a Kobo and haven't read it yet, don't worry, I'm still looking out for you. The audiobook is still en route. It's the problem with 3 dogs and a girl in the house to get a quiet space to actually record the autos, making it take longer than I thought, but we'll get where we get. And then, I don't know, I guess, Carl, you got the same thing, so whatever.
I did the same thing for like 2 years, man. I don't actually work anymore.
Fair enough. All right, so I guess I'll end this one off. I'm going to go have some breakfast, and then I'll get ready to hang out on John's channel. I'll see you guys there. Carl may or may not show up. We'll figure